welcome back to the People in Progress podcast. This is episode 7 and today we are talking all about cozy girl fall. This episode is going to be about how to romanticize fall and how to live your best life in the autumn, colder months. And like I said, this is going to be the steps on how to embody cozy girl fall. This episode is all about living seasonally, and just quickly why I love living seasonally. I think living seasonally really gives you a chance to slow down, and I've really been into more of like a slow living kind of mindset, or at least researching that kind of mentality. And I think really playing into the seasons just makes you live in a more mindful and intentional way. It also, I think, gives you a deeper connection with nature and what's going on around you, which I love. Let's quickly jump into the segments for today's episode before we go into the main body, where we're going to talk about how you can live your best life this fall. So what is progressing my life this week? I'm excited for fall. That's pretty much it. I'm just excited for the colder weather. I'm excited for the fashion. We're going to talk all about it this episode, but I've had a really good summer, but I'm just excited. There is so much to come in fall. It's my birthday, it's my anniversary with Jake. I'm just excited to experience fall on the East Coast as well and explore more of like my local area. Just a quick break to take a nice sip of chamomile tea. This is my Anthropology anagram mug, if you can see if you're watching the video, but this is just the vibes for today's episode and my week at the minute. Okay, but what is holding me back? And trust me, I have a couple things to say for this. So first of all, I sat down to record this episode and spilt my water bottle all over the bed, but I had already set up the camera angle, the microphone and everything, and I cleaned off the water off the bed, but obviously I accidentally sat in the ice cold water, obviously when I spilled it on me. And I'm just like, I'm just going to record here. I'm not setting everything up somewhere else, but might as well just keep going and record this episode. So I don't know, the weather's still pretty hot, so the cold, icy water is cooling me down, but it's not exactly the best vibes. But we're keeping this episode high vibrational, good energy, and yeah, I'm just appreciating that this ice water is cooling me down. The other thing is, it's a week since I recorded last week's episode, obviously, and I spoke about in the what's holding me back section that I was feeling ill. I was really ill, and I am still ill. My voice sounds raspy, perhaps even worse than last week. Just know that I am not feeling as better as I thought I was going to be. I've got my tea here and I've been having lots of lozenges. I'm gonna get this recording out there, but again, this is why the episode is late. I was waiting for my voice to feel better, and guess what, it never did. I also just think being ill, besides obviously giving me a sore throat and interrupting my content schedule, is just making me feel really tired, and I'm very much looking forward to feeling better. And also I'm just trying to really, I don't know, eat some good whole foods. I want to make some soup later this week. I might make some ginger shots or something. Just anything to make me feel better. Okay, and if you listened to last week's episode, I was going to do my travel recap because I recently, less than 3 weeks ago, got back from over a month of travel, and I was going to do the recap in last week's episode, like I said, but that was a really long episode. It wasn't that long once I edited it, like it was over an hour, which I kind of like, I don't know, I might do a poll on my YouTube to see how long you guys prefer the podcast, or if you're watching on Spotify, I'll also put that down below in the poll. So let me know if you prefer shorter episodes or longer episodes, but I personally prefer like maybe 40 minutes to an hour long episodes. But I didn't want that episode to be too long because I had so much footage, so I just cut out my travel recap and said I'd tell you guys about it this week. So I'm losing my voice, we're not going to make this too long, but I do want to tell you guys what I did this summer while I was away. So in the middle of July, I went back to the UK, which is where I used to live, if you can't tell from the accent. But I lived in the UK for 5 years before moving to Canada last year with Jake, and Jake's my boyfriend. So we went back to the UK, and he's like fully British and all his family lives there. So we went back and we went to a couple different places. When Jake was there, we went to London, which is where my family is, and we stayed with them for a bit. Then we went up to Durham, which is where Jake's family is, and we stayed there for a bit. And then we also attended my graduation ceremony because I did graduate last year from the University of Leeds, but I pushed the ceremony till this year, and I'm so glad I did. I enjoyed it so much, and it was such an incredible time, and I honestly nearly cried when I saw myself in the gown. Like, it was such an achievement, and I did it entirely myself, and it was just such It was such a magical moment, and the day was perfect, and just everything went incredibly well. And I was ready for disaster, I was ready for something to happen, but somehow it all turned out perfectly and it was incredible. Other than my graduation ceremony, we spent a lot of time seeing family. We also spent a lot of time catching up with friends, and it was just so interesting because obviously we're in this life stage where everyone's recently graduated, we're all in this post-grad kind of era, and I just love seeing what people are doing and catching up with them in this new chapter of life. I think knowing someone in multiple chapters of their life is one way to really like, it deepens your connection with them, and obviously you can't like force that, but just seeing these people that I've known for a few years and we're all in a different chapter together, like it's just really nice. And then Jake had to go back to Canada, but I had to stay a little bit longer for some visa stuff, so I did a couple things while Jake was back in Canada, and I really missed him, but I made the most of it. I spent a lot of time in London, and I also went to Hurtwood, which is my old boarding school in the UK. I met up with a couple of friends who I went to Hurtwood with, and we travelled down to Guildford, and it was just weird being back. Spent a day in Guildford, like I said. We did brunch, we checked out the shops, we got the train there, and even that train journey, it was very strange. It was like being at Hogwarts, because you know how they're always at the train station, they travel to the school for the new school year. We kind of used to do that, not like the Hogwarts vibe, but we used to go from Paddington to Guildford, and I never considered it like, I don't know, something nostalgic, but suddenly I was at Paddington with my friend who, you know, we used to get the train together sometimes, and we'd always have all our bags and be ready to go, but at the time we were rushing, we were trying to get somewhere, but this time we were traveling and we were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing this again. And I think it was 5 years since we started at Hurtwood and 3 or 4 years since we graduated. And yeah, it was just crazy. That was really cool. We saw our old boarding house and we walked around the school, and it's so weird because like lots have changed, but also lots hasn't changed, and it was really cool. And then I also went up to visit Cambridge because I have a friend studying there, and I went on her podcast, and it's a film podcast, and we spoke about the Barbie movie, and that was so fun, and I love Cambridge. We stayed in Wolfston College accommodation, and we ate some really good food. We went to some really cool places, we went punting, and it was like classic Cambridge summer. It was so much fun. And then also the last thing I did is on the way back from the UK to Ottawa, we had to stop by somewhere, and I went through New York, and I've never been to New York before. New York for 4 days, but I was only there for 2 full days because I flew in on the night of the first day and flew out at about midday on the 4th day. But we were staying in the meatpacking district, so obviously we didn't do a ton of stuff because we're there for such a short time, but I feel like I really made the most of the time I was there. We walked the High Line, went to Chelsea Market, we also went up to the Edge Observatory, and I saw Hudson Yards. We walked down 5th Avenue, I stopped into that, I think it's the Plaza Hotel where Eloise was set. I went to Bad Roman, which was a really cool Italian place. Anyway, I did all daily vlogs of it, and I'm slowly uploading them now to my TikTok, so if you want to see in detail what I did and how I made the most of my short time in New York, I think I did a really good travel itinerary, so you can always check that out on my TikTok if you want to. My other social medias are always linked down below in the show notes if you ever want to check them out and follow me. Okay, and last segment, my current read. Last night I just finished Devil's Angel, which is a contemporary romance set in Hawaii, and it is a billionaire kind of romance, and it's got some like crime ring mafia vibes. It's sort of unusual and very unique. It's not what I was expecting, but the vibes are really good for like end of summer. I wanted to read a couple more summer books, which I mentioned in the last episode, and so this was, I think, the last of my summer reading, and it is definitely a summery vibe, and it was very, very interesting. I don't think I've ever read a book set in Hawaii before. I think I'm going to give it a 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it, but it's not a perfect book to me, but I did really like it, and it was a unique summer read. Anyway, I am fully in the autumn mood now, so I'm going to pick my first read of the autumn to start tonight, and I'm thinking I'm going to do Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and I'm so excited to pick this one up. Okay, so now we are going to get into how you can romanticize your fall this year in 2023 and how you can embody cozy girl fall. We're going to start off with reflection, because autumn is a transitional season. It is a time of big change. I think the jump between summer and autumn can feel like the biggest change in the year, because I feel like, I guess spring is a little bit more subtle and slow, while autumn, it changes so intensely. It's very quick. It's like in the blink of an eye, things are suddenly happening. Also, autumn is a very controversial season. I feel like some people love it and some people hate it, and I personally love it, but I think reflecting on the season can really help. I think if you take time to reflect on what happened in your summer, if you take time to check in with yourself, and something really important is to look at what you value. What do you want? And if you look at this, you will feel less lost in this transition season. After summer, which can be a bit of a whirlwind, being a bit more intentional and, like I said, resetting and checking in can just ground you a bit. What kind of fall do you want? And now, starting off with the fun bit, there are tons of fall aesthetics. There is like dark academia fall, there is spooky season, there is granola girl autumn, there is like Christian girl autumn, basic fall, and then there is like cozy sweater weather fall. And you don't have to pick one of these, but you know, just check in and be like, am I feeling more of the Halloween vibes this year? Am I feeling more like dark academia, productive university vibes? If you're doing a full vision board, you know, pick some aspects of some of these, and it might help you pick what kind of like girl you want to be this fall. We always talk about that girl and everything like that. What is your that girl during this fall? What does that look like? And we'll pick up on that in a second. With these more fun aesthetic things, you also want to look at what's important to you. But if you're at university, it might be academics. I know my 2021 fall was definitely an academic, dark academia fall, and last year it was more of like a city girl fall when I was living in Vancouver. But this year I'm looking at slow living. I'm also looking at productivity. You might be wanting to spend more time focusing on family and friends, or spending time at home, or spending time outdoors. Whatever you want your fall to look like, visualize it. In my autumn reset, which I posted to my YouTube channel, it's my first video from, well, actually the last video of August, sort of first video of September. I'll link it somewhere if you're on YouTube, and I'll also link it in the show notes. But I spent a bit of time working on my full vision board, and I have some vision board episodes on here, and I talk all about how I like to do seasonal vision boards and like why I love vision boards. Think about who you want to be this autumn and visualize that. And then on top of visualization, you can take small steps to become the person you want to be this autumn. So if you want to be dark academia fall, focusing on university, what does that kind of girl do? Does she wake up in the morning and read a book? Does she listen to classical music while she's studying? Or if you're in the mood for like a cozy sweater weather kind of fall, maybe you'll wake up and do some slow movement like yoga, and you'll light a candle and you'll make a warm drink. And we'll get into this later. We're going to talk all about cozy fall activities. But when you're reflecting, think about the small steps you can do in your routine to live the life you want this autumn. Also, quick note, apologies if it bothers anyone me saying fall and autumn interchangeably, but I am British Australian, so we traditionally say autumn, but I live in Canada now, so I also say fall, and they mean the same thing and they also mean different things to me. I'm sorry if it bothers you. Okay, so I know when I was talking about reflection, I was mentioning resets a lot. So let's get into that, because that is the next step on how to live your best life this fall, is to actually do a reset. So like I said, if you want a guide to this, I have a full reset video on my channel, my YouTube channel. If you aren't listening on that, because you can listen to this podcast on YouTube, is Elsa Moira, and it is always linked in the show notes. But I think a reset makes you feel a lot more grounded and settled, and it makes the changes and the transitions in life, like transitioning to a new season, more intentional. I've been trying to articulate this for a while now in my head, and I think I've finally got a metaphor for it. But if you plan and you check in with yourself and you do these life resets, I think it really stops you from feeling overwhelmed. And the metaphor I'm going to get into here, and I was trying to figure this out, I was talking with my boyfriend about this, but I was just doing some writing for this episode, and I think the way to put it is, it kind of feels like you're treading water, and if you don't check in with things, they're kind of like waves hitting you. It's just like a new season's hitting you, a new deadline's hitting you, a new change in life is hitting you. If you're treading in deep water, the waves are going over your head, it can feel very overwhelming. But if you check in, and once something is past, you let it pass, if you know what's coming, if you look out for what's coming towards you, you can not only tread water easier, but instead of treading in like the deep wild ocean, you're maybe at a more calm beach. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but that is the only way I've been able to properly visualize this. But in more concrete terms, if you, for example, reset your closet for autumn, you're not going to be overwhelmed and shocked when the colder weather comes and you still have all your summer clothes out and you have that weird period where you don't know what to wear because you still like want to wear your summer clothes, but now it's cold and you don't know where your jumpers are or all your nice winter stuff is. It'll help with that. And you're also not going to look at your space and be like, this feels so summery and now it's cold outside and it's all autumnal. Or you're not going to have some decorations hanging around from previous seasons and some from the new season, because you will take time to take all those down and put all new ones up and reset. And yeah, I hope that makes sense, but that is kind of how I'm visualizing it. And I would love to know if I'm the only one who feels this way, because I don't know, I feel like it's so hard to articulate and I feel like I don't hear many people talking about that. Like I said, if you want a full guide on this, I do have that video, but 3 steps I recommend are: 1, looking what's ahead of you and reflecting on the past, which we've spoken about a lot. 2, setting clear goals that align with you and that are realistic and manageable. 3, decluttering, whether that's a closet organization, like I said, a digital declutter, or just your like things drawer and your like everything cupboards. Go through that and I think it will make your mind feel a lot more relaxed. Also, if you can hear any meowing, we do have a cat visitor. I hope she jumps up on the bed so you guys watching the video can see her, but it looks like she might be leaving now. But if you hear any noise, that is what that is. Okay, the next step in this ultimate guide to fall is creating an atmosphere. And we've spoken about what you want your fall to look like, so make it a reality. One way you can do this is obviously by decorating your space. It doesn't need to be drastic, you don't need to go out and buy a bunch of new things, and thrifting is a really good way to do this. Also go through things you might have from past years or things family members are wanting to give away, or even just incorporating things that you already own. So look at colours. You probably already own stuff that is like orange or red. If you can incorporate that into your space, that is great. You can also just print off things from your computer or pay a pretty good price at like Staples or Michael's to get them printed and create your own art prints to make your space look the way you want it to. Another great way to do this is with candles. I love a full candle, and I think not only does it make your space look amazing, but the scent really just like embodies cozy girl fall. We mentioned this earlier when I was talking about aesthetics, but you also want to implement intentional things into your routine. A routine is just as much about living your dream life as it is being productive and setting yourself up for a good day. So take the time to make a pumpkin spice latte. Sit in your window and watch the world go by. Make time to read a book in the morning and put on some cozy autumnal music while you're getting ready. Like I said earlier, you can also look at the girl you want to be and think about what she would do in her daily routine and implement that into yours. Doing all of these things really help cultivate a cozy and intentional autumnal atmosphere around you. Next thing we're going to talk about is fall activities. So let's start off with some cozy activities you might want to do. I have a whole fall bucket list video coming out soon, which has 100 ideas which you might want to do this fall, and a lot of them are nice, like at home, easy stuff to implement. So subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see that. But here are just a couple of short ideas. 1 is keep an eye out for fall festivals and events around your city. These don't have to be massive things. They can be farmers markets and keeping an eye on local farms doing apple pickings or tastings or events, because fall is a lot about food and harvest season. I also know in Ottawa we have a lot of apple and cider farms around us, so although it's not an event, I kind of just want to go and check those out. And then also we have Halloween and Thanksgiving coming up. If you're in Canada, your Thanksgiving is in October, so it's right around the corner as well. So I'm sure there are lots of places around your city putting on events for those. We have 2 cats with me right now. I am so sorry for the noise. But make the most of these things. Fall is a fleeting season. It's only there for a blink of an eye. So make the most of them. Do all the seasonal things. Pick some apples, look at some pumpkins, and just enjoy it. Another thing you might want to do is spend some time doing a cozy hobby. I personally have a lot of cozy hobbies, but some ones I can recommend are, of course, reading, writing, whether that's just journaling your feelings or getting into creative writing, checking out some cozy video games. And in my video coming out, the bucket list video, I do actually give some specific recommendations for these. And also baking is a classic cozy fall hobby. I mentioned earlier being that girl based on maybe like an aesthetic or the vibe you want to embody, and I want to give some examples of that more specifically. Sort of that girl, wellness girl fall, you might want to implement hot girl walks in the cool crisp air, making smoothies but adding pumpkin spice, cooking with seasonal foods, which we are totally going to get into in a second. I've mentioned dark academia a lot. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm in the mood for some dark academia books, but you might want to get into reading more books, studying more, even if you're not at university, handwriting your notes or going to a library. If you're embodying the spooky Halloween girl kind of vibe, you want to read some thriller novels or watch some Halloween movies. Or if you're putting up decorations, maybe the orange pumpkin vibe isn't for you. Maybe it's more ghosts and skeletons, and I love that vibe as well. Something else you should do this fall, talking about activities, is start trying out things for the colder months. And now quickly, I just moved to a very cold place, at least the coldest place I've lived, and that is Ottawa, by the way, in Ontario, Canada. And am I excited? Yes, I love the cold weather, both fall and winter, but am I scared? Totally also yes. When we first moved to Ottawa, we moved in February, so we got about 2 months of like the end of winter, and to be honest, Jake and I were totally not prepared. We definitely like almost lost an ear a couple times when we went out, and there was this one time I spilt my coffee in our hire car and it literally froze in the car. Like, that is how cold it was, and I didn't even experience like November, December, January here. Also, not to mention, I heard that winter wasn't a particularly cold winter, which is crazy, and I love that kind of weather, but I need to get prepared in more ways than one. So one way you can do that, starting in autumn, is trying and testing out new routines and habits for the colder months. So in autumn, it is September right now, it is autumn, but it is still hot, so I can still do walks outside and sit outside in the garden and, you know, wear shorts and stuff like that. But you might want to start trying out things because it is going to get cold and it is going to get darker sooner rather than later. So talking about walks, for example, I'm trying to walk outside every day, and at the minute I tend to walk outside in the evenings, but it is, like I said, getting darker earlier. And so, for example, you might want to try doing a morning walk or a lunchtime walk, because if you start creating that habit, or at least trying out that habit now, it won't be so much of a shock to the system when you aren't able to do an evening walk, or at least you're not able to do one in the daylight when it gets to October, November. As well, depending on where you live, you might not be able to walk outside soon, and by soon I mean a couple of months. Still keep those outdoor walks, don't stop them, you know, continue to enjoy them and enjoy the weather intuitively and as you can. But you might want to also start implementing walking on a walking pad at home, or going to a gym, or doing yoga inside, doing some other kind of movement. And this works with a bunch of different hobbies, whether it's cooking or whether it's when you wake up and stuff like that. But you want to start trying out things so it's not a shock to the system and so you're prepared. Okay, the next thing about Cozy Girl Fall, and I am so excited to talk about this because this is a very trendy concept that I've more recently got into. We are going to talk about embracing hygge and coziness. So the word hygge, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a Danish and Norwegian word that dates back to the 1800s. I'm just reading from my computer here, but I have a couple explanations of the word because it doesn't have a direct translation into English. And like I said, it's very trendy, you've probably already heard about it, but a quick explanation is: Hygge is about coziness and surrounding yourself with the things that make life good, like friendship, laughter, and security, as well as more concrete things like warmth, light, seasonal food and drink. It is also about well-being through simple and everyday experiences. So in Denmark and Norway, they obviously have really cold, dark winters, and I think Hygge is so important to everyday life there. It's in terms of like everyday well-being and also keeping that well-being up during the colder, traditionally harder months. But I think obviously I've never been, I don't know, I would love to go to the Scandinavian countries and the Nordics, but I gather there's not so much of a dread of winter as there is in some countries, because there is these seasonal cultural things that they do to enjoy those months just as much as people enjoy summer, for example. And I totally love that. I really, really want to embody that. And I've been doing some reading into Hygge and I really want to get some books on it. And it just seems like such a lovely concept. Let's quickly get into how you can incorporate Hygge into your everyday life this autumn in particular. And I also am going to leave a link to a really good article I read down below in the show notes if you want to read more on this. So one of the first aspects of Hygge is creating comfort in your physical surroundings. I mentioned this earlier, you can do this by decorating your house, your room, or at least your area in a way that makes you really, really happy. But also it's particularly about comfort. So have cozy things like pillows and blankets that really make you feel warm and cozy for the season. Also, physical surroundings aren't just what's around you, it's also totally about clothing. And I am wearing a very comfy oversized top today, and do you know what? I'm feeling ill, but I can still dress up and be comfy. So, jumpers, leggings, Ugg boots, all of that is perfect for the season. And I'm going to actually talk about at the end of this episode, we're finishing it off by talking about fall fashion trends and things I'm loving. Personally, I am a comfort above everything girl. I'm not going to wear uncomfortable clothes even if they're fashionable, and so I definitely think you should incorporate that into the way you're dressing during fall and winter. Another less obvious thing that can make your environment more comforting is more softer mood lighting, which I've been getting really into. I'm actually on the lookout at the minute for some lamps for around the house because I don't want to use the overhead lighting all the time, but also candles, like I mentioned earlier, really help with softer, more comforting lighting. Another key concept in Hygge is spending time with people you really care about and making more meaningful connections. So if you want to hear more about this, in my last episode from last week, we spoke about my guide for back to school and how to live your best life at university. And I did speak, if you are a university student, I spoke about making more meaningful connections and making friends at university, but also do keep an eye out because I am going to do some friendship episodes coming up in the next couple weeks, and we're going to talk all about making friends in your 20s and making more meaningful connections. Though we're not getting into that here, that is something you should prioritize this fall. Some other key concepts we're just going to speed run through: disconnecting from the digital world a bit, having warming foods and drinks, and you can read more about it in the article I linked in the show notes. But the concept of Hygge just makes me so happy. It's all about coziness and comfort. And yeah, if you guys haven't heard much about it, you should definitely read up more on it. It's just incredible. Another way to romanticize fall is to eat seasonal food. So quickly, let's talk about foods that are in season. These are ones that are in season for the area I'm in, but if you're living in a different country or a different place, do search this up. It's really easy to find on Google. But for me, in season things we have are pears, apples and figs, cauliflower, carrots, leeks, beetroot, sweet potato, and obviously pumpkin and squash. So why should you eat seasonally and why is it so important? First of all, it is so much fresher and it tastes better. It's also cheaper and way better for the environment. And I've also read, and you'll have to search this up because I'm not an expert, but I have heard they are more nutritious if you eat foods in season. And also, it is just about enjoying the season, enjoying the things when they are there, being in the moment. It's all about mindfulness and living in the present. And I think a way to implement that into your everyday life is to eat in season foods. And I know I was talking briefly about vitamins, and again, this is really personal. You want to research this yourself and talk to your medical professionals. It's etc. But some vitamins that do tend to be important for the colder months when we have less sun and we're going outside less are vitamins D and C and iron. So I also highly recommend looking into a multivitamin or some different tablets or prebiotics. Again, consult medical professionals and do your own research, but it is important to look into these things, especially for the colder months. Okay, and last thing, on a more lighthearted note, I wanted to end this episode off with something fun. We are going to talk about wearing autumnal clothing, all the fall fashion trends, and my thoughts on a couple different fashion trends. So first of all is the colour red, and I feel like most seasons, especially fall, has like an it color. So I was thinking back and I feel like 2021 or even definitely 2020, and this also went over to 2021, was that chocolate brown kind of all brown outfit. And I did love that, and I do love brown, but it was such a specific shade of brown, which I did buy, but honestly it wasn't flattering on me. I think if you learn a lot more about color seasons and color theory, and you know, there's all this styling information on TikTok and stuff, that is not a brown that is flattering to my skin tone. But then 2022, I was trying to think about this. 2022 autumn was weird for me because I was traveling a lot, and also we didn't have a lot of an autumn in Vancouver. It was a weird year. I do think that emerald green was a really big trend last autumn. Anyway, but this year it is red, and I love that because red is classic, it is timeless, and you probably already own some red clothes. And it's also really easy to accessorize with a pop of red. Like I said, that 2020-2021 chocolate brown I think feels really dated, but I feel like red won't be dated because, like I said, it is a timeless color. And I've already begun to implement this because I'm definitely a more neutrals and like navy, maybe green color person. But I do love a bit of red, and I have some red that I've owned for years. And then also I've been particularly into like a darker Merlot burgundy wine red, and I just bought a nail polish the other day. It is called You Can't Beat Royalty, and it's a Sally Hansen nail polish, and I love Sally Hansen. And it's like beet as in beetroot, and it's definitely like a beetrooty, wait, if you're watching video right now, I'm showing you my nails. They're not very well done, so you'll have to ignore, they're quite messy. But it's a very beetroot wine colour, and I love it. The next trend is tons of denim. So I've particularly seen a couple trends within denim, because obviously denim is a classic. First of all, denim on denim. I love the idea of this. I don't know how like practical and wearable this is for like everyday life, but I do love this for like a going out fit or for like a statement fit. I don't know if it's something I'm personally going to be doing because I don't own a denim top or jacket, and I don't want to buy one just for the sake of a trend. But I also love the trend of baggy denim, which is another trend. And this is so important for me because I did not wear denim for years, and I started wearing it probably when I was like 15, just because I found it so uncomfortable, and that was like Tumblr skinny jeans kind of vibe. I don't know, I cannot wear like tight uncomfortable trousers anymore. Life is just too short to wear uncomfortable clothing, and so I love the trend of baggy denim. In my full reset, I did talk about my favorite pair of jeans at the minute, which is so comfortable. They're from Mango, and I link them and everything if you want to check out that video. But I love the baggy denim trend because it is way more comfortable, and I also just love the way it looks. A little shoe trend. I love this one because one, you probably already own them because they've been trending for years. If not, they'll almost definitely be in a thrift store, I'm sure. But loafers for fall, I feel like they're such a classic, very Gossip Girl vibes, and I don't have like a classic loafer. I have more of like a lace up loafer, and they're so comfy. They're from Skechers, and they're really cheap on Amazon. I love this trend. Like I said, feels very dark academia and very Gossip Girl. Another shoe trend is ballet flats, and I have never worn ballet flats. I have quite a high arch in my foot, so I find it really hard to walk in a shoe like that, but I feel like they'd be uncomfortable. And like, are ballet flats uncomfortable? Because it feels like it's like when you wear flip-flops and you're just walking directly on the ground, like there's no support for your feet. Although I've never worn them, the idea of ballet flats has really grown on me, but I'm not sure if I'm going to buy them because, like I said, they do seem a little bit unsupportive. And also, I don't know if this is super practical for the season because we're wearing boots and loafers because suddenly it's cold outside, and also it's like you can't step on the ground if it's wet or snowy. And with ballet flats, you don't have much protection from the elements. If I see a well-priced pair, I might try pick them up and try them on because I do love the idea of it, but yeah, I have issues with the practicality of this trend. This is another thing that is coming back this fall, and that is off the shoulder. And I cannot believe this, because if you're Gen Z or millennial, I'm sure you remember the off the shoulder 2010s trend with the off the shoulder tops and the fold over like sweaters. And I feel like this was so popular when I was in sixth form. And I kind of thought it was very cringy when I got to university and stuff. I feel like it was very of the times, but I'm seeing literally the same sweater, so you might already own this or keep an eye out in thrift stores. And this trend has also already trickled down to a lot of regular stores because it has been a trend for a while. But it's the same sweater with the fold over kind of off the shoulder thing, but it's just being styled in a more up-to-date way, and I love it. I have a couple off the shoulder tops, but this is definitely a trend I'm thinking of shopping for because it's something I think I would really wear a lot of. I kind of love this one, but definitely look on Pinterest or TikTok for more up-to-date styling inspiration for it. Okay, so I hope you guys remember the coastal cowgirl trend from this summer. And I've kind of seen this as a trend, but this is also more of just a hope for myself. I hope this trend of like cowgirl country kind of continues, because I have some cowgirl boots, which I love. I feel like those kind of shoes would be perfect for fall. And also we've been seeing a lot of 70s stuff, and I feel like cowboy boots with the flare trousers is very 70s, but also like an autumn version of coastal cowgirl. And I loved that trend this summer. Another trend, which I haven't been seeing a lot of people wearing, or at least people talking about it with this specific name, but I was reading a bit of InStyle, Glamour and Vogue for preparation for this segment of the episode, and it is gothic or dark romance fashion. Now, if you're a romance reader, it's not the dark romance you're thinking of. It's more like a little bit witchy, a little bit Wednesday Addams. It's black lace, corset details and ribbons. To be fair, I think ribbons have been super in. I've seen people putting them as room decor, hair decor, and adding them on as accessories to their clothing. And I feel like this is like an extension of the ribbon trend, of the coquette, like cottagecore trend. And this is like its autumnal cousin. And this last trend I haven't seen on like Vogue and Glamour, but I always see this on TikTok during autumn, and it is Elena Gilbert, Bella Swan style, and also obviously Rory Gilmore style. I feel like this is a lot of knit sweaters and jeans, it's Henleys and particularly flare trousers. And also I feel like the Rory Gilmore trend is more neutrals, and obviously there's that like knit white jumper look, but also if you're leaning more into the Elena Gilbert like Bella Swan vibe, it's a lot of those jewel tone like purples, greens, navies colours. I love this one. I'm a big fan of the Vampire Diaries and Twilight. I haven't seen Gilmore Girls, but the style and the vibes are so good. You can definitely hear this, but I'm totally losing my voice. So I think that's going to be all for today's episode, and I hope you enjoyed this guide on how to live your best life this fall, how to embody cozy girl fall, and how to romanticize your life in fall 2023. I have a couple fall vlogs already up on YouTube, and I have tons more coming, so do follow me on YouTube. All my links are always in the show notes. And if you did like this episode, please do rate and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I really appreciate it, and it helps so much. And if you are watching on YouTube, do leave a comment about what you thought, and do subscribe. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next Monday.